Well, I watched the whole Senate. I watched the whole Senate. Yeah, I heard a little bit of the Senate. Senate was a lot more today, I think.
It was an assembly day.
Yeah.
But you know, so understand some of this. The questions that now
There are no good answers. Yeah, today, operating capital. It's just a simple. It's not simple.
And good evening, members of the remote audience for today's New Jersey Transit Monthly Board meeting. Just as a reminder, anyone who plans to make a public comment this evening, if you have not done so already, you may press star 1 on your telephone keypad now or at any point through the conclusion of the public comment period to enter queue. Today's meeting will begin shortly at approximately 6 p.m. and you will be shortly connected to the boardroom. Once again, though, anyone intending to make a public comment tonight, please press star 1 on your telephone keypad to enter the queue now or at any point through the conclusion of the public comment period. Thank you very much. You will be connected to the New Jersey Transit boardroom now.
Got it. So I'm very familiar with the area around KA, Friends, whatever I guess the
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and members of the remote audience for today's monthly board meeting. If you have not done so already and plan to make a public comment, you may press star 1 on your telephone keypad now or at any point through.
The
Good evening, everyone. Let's get started. One sec. Okay. I hereby call to order the Board of Directors meeting of the New Jersey Transit Corporation, New Jersey Transit Rail Operations, Inc., New Jersey Transit Bus Operations, Inc., New Jersey Transit Mercer, Inc., and New Jersey Transit Mars, Inc.
Good evening. Please mute your phones and turn your attention to the public safety announcement.
At New Jersey Transit, your safety is our highest priority. Please listen to these safety instructions in case of an emergency. In an emergency, announcements will be made over the loudspeaker or by a uniformed police officer. The primary exit for this location is the stairwell adjacent to the elevators, which can be located by exiting the boardroom and proceeding through the glass doors. There is a second alternate staircase that can be accessed through the door at the front of this room to the right behind the board dais. New Jersey Transit Police will administer CPR and use the defibrillator located near the elevator if necessary. Fire extinguishers are located in the front and back of this room. Please be guided by the directions of the New Jersey Transit Police and staff. As a reminder, members of the public are not permitted to approach the dais and should only share board meeting materials with New Jersey Transit staff at the reception desk. Thank you and have a safe day.
Thank you so much. At this time, I would ask Vice Chair Fulton to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. If you would all please stand.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I will now take roll call. Board Member Adams?
Here.
Board Member Brown?
Here.
Board Member Doshi?
Here.
Board Member Morocco?
Here.
Board Member Nara?
Here.
Board Member Thomas?
Here.
Board Member Koenig?
Here.
Board Member Giblin?
Here.
Vice Chair Fulton?
Here.
Chair Gutierrez-Gichetti.
Here.
And for the record, Chair Gutierrez-Gichetti and Board Member Doshi are participating by telephone, and Board Member Gordon is absent. This is a meeting of the New Jersey Transit Corporation and its affiliates and subsidiaries. Adequate notice has been provided in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act and NJ Transit's enabling legislation. Notice was filed on May 5th, 2022 with the Secretary of State and sent to newspapers of general distribution, posted in the main entrance of NJ Transit's headquarters, published on the corporation's website, and sent to each individual, agency, and organization that requested such notice.
At this time, may I have a motion and a second to approve the minutes of the April 13th, 2022 board meetings?
Motion, Nara.
Second.
Who made the second, please?
Morocco.
Thank you. Is there any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, Megan, please take a roll call vote.
Roll call vote. Board Member Adams?
Yes.
Board Member Doshi?
Yes.
Board Member Morocco?
Yes.
Board Member Nara,
Yes.
Board Member Keenan.
I will abstain since I was not present.
Okay, thank you. Board Member Giblin,
Yes.
Vice Chair Foley,
Yes.
Chair Gutierrez Scacchetti.
Yes,
Motion carried.
thank you. At this time, I'll call upon President and CEO Kevin Corbett to present the President and CEO's monthly report.
Yes, thank you and good evening, Chair and members of the board, and good evening to all the members of the public joining us online tonight. As we continue to come out of the pandemic, we will begin this evening with ridership, which is holding steady on all modes. Weekday rail ridership is more than 55% of pre-COVID levels, and average rail ridership on weekends remains at approximately 70 to 80%, with some trains at 100%. System-wide bus ridership overall remains just shy of 70%, with interstate ridership into New York at approximately 65% of pre-COVID levels, and intrastate ridership at approximately 75%. Light rail ridership is once again holding steady at approximately 75% of pre-COVID levels. As customers return to our system, it's important to remember that NJ Transit service alone allows our state to avoid approximately 6.3 million tons of greenhouse gas emissions every year by providing a safe, affordable, and much more environmentally friendly alternative to the car. NJ Transit proudly celebrated our commitment to improving the environment on Earth Day last month, which provided us with a perfect opportunity to promote the essential role that public transit plays in reducing carbon emissions. This includes many of our ongoing environmentally focused initiatives, such as the development launch of our first ever sustainability plan, and continue to advance our ambitious goals to achieve 100% zero emission bus fleet by 2040. Of course, the many environmental benefits we confer on our region would not be possible without the hardworking men and women who operate our buses, trains, and light rail vehicles. That's one reason we are aggressively recruiting, training, and hiring bus operators amid the nationwide shortage of commercial driver's license, CDL, as we know it, holders. NJ Transit currently offers a $6,000 signing bonus for bus operators and provides some of the most competitive benefits in the industry. So please, whether you're here today in person or online, we encourage you to help us spread the word about this great career opportunity. Candidates can easily apply through our website at njtransit.com/careers. As warmer weather approaches and people begin to venture out more often, NJ Transit resumes service to the Monmouth Park racetrack on May 7th with a great discount package. Rail service to Monmouth Park Station resumed on our North Jersey coastline for the start of the live racing season and will continue until the end of the season on September 18th. We also introduced a new Monmouth Park discount package, which includes discounted round-trip transportation, general admission, and an official racing program. For more information, please visit njtransit.com/Monmouth Park. This package represents yet another fun way NJ Transit is working to attract customers back to our system, including Transit to Trails, NJT Rewards, and our recent Spring Fling promotion, and our soon-to-be-released summer promotional campaign. Now I'd like to take a moment to discuss two legislative hearings I had attended earlier this month at the State House in Trenton, both which covered NJ Transit's proposed fiscal year 2023 operating budget and other areas of the organization such as service, infrastructure projects, technology, and sustainability. The hearings, where I was joined by Commissioner Gutierrez Scacchetti, were very productive and positive. Legislators clearly appreciate the many ways we have returned dividends on their investments in NJ Transit, while remaining very candid about the work that still lies ahead in the areas where improvements can still be made. I was also proud to point out the passage of the governor's budget will include no fare increase for our customers for the 5th year in a row under Governor Murphy's administration. We have 3 items up for board consideration tonight that I'd like to highlight. Today, the board will consider a contract to purchase 143 new cutaway minibuses with lifts, with the option to purchase 308 more in the future to provide to subrecipients for transportation for senior citizens and people with disabilities in New Jersey. The purchase is aligned with our strategic plan goal to power a stronger and fairer economy for all communities in the region, and supports our mission to improve mobility and comfort for senior citizens and people with disabilities throughout the state. The board will also consider a contract to restore full operations to our Oradell bus garage, which, as many of you know, was completely flooded last year in September by remnants of Tropical Storm Ida. And we look forward to board approval tonight to replace up to 351 non-revenue fleet vehicles. Through this purchase, NJ Transit will add 129 new electric hybrid vehicles to our fleet of non-revenue vehicles, aligned with the Governor's Energy Master Plan and supporting our own agency's sustainability plan. Moving on to infrastructure, a few words on the Advancing Gateway program. In addition to the hearings this month at the State House, Commissioner Gutierrez-Cachetti and I also attended the Regional Plan Association's Centennial Assembly last week, along with both Governor Murphy and Governor Hope, where Gateway was a focus of discussion. As you know, NJ Transit's Board of Directors has authorized many board actions in support of the Gateway program, including the largest construction award in our history, the Portal North Bridge, which is the first key component of Phase 1 of the overall program. At the Assembly, both Governor Murphy and Governor Hochul expressed their overwhelming support for the Gateway program, and we now have a clear directive from Senator Chuck Schumer and U.S. DOT Deputy Secretary Polly Trottenberg. We're very excited to see this vital program of national significance finally on the cusp of moving forward from concept to reality. New Jersey Transit also celebrated a significant infrastructure milestone last month on April 21st. I was proud to join Governor Murphy and many other elected officials to break ground at our Perth Amboy station, ushering in a major station renovation and expansion. Construction is now underway to make Perth Amboy fully accessible under the Americans with Disabilities Act, providing enhanced options of mobility for people with disabilities. We will also completely renovate and expand the station building, including the installation of new ADA-compliant bathrooms, install 2 new high-level platforms, and install new elevators and ramps, and make many other additional station improvements, all while preserving Perth Amboy's historic and distinctive design. Moving on to technology, this week NJ Transit launched 2 new technology initiatives focused on maximizing the accessibility of public transportation to the greatest extent possible. First, through the new partnership with Magnus Mode, NJ Transit will assist neurodiverse customers with the help of Magnus, an illustrative character with the free Magnus Card app. The app combines a specialized instruction with real-world images to aid neurodiverse customers, such as those with autism, who could use extra guidance navigating everyday experiences on public transit. Funding for Magnus Mode was provided by the Senior Citizens and Disabled Residents Transportation Assistance Program, or SCATTER-TAP. Customers can learn more and find links to download the app at njtransit.com/magnusmode. New Jersey Transit has also revamped its accessibility-related website content and user experience, now available at njtransit.com/accessibility. The webpage features new videos about the many services and features of NJ Transit that will make it accessible and inviting to all individuals, as well as easy-to-use links to specific information such as our reduced fare program, community transportation services, and our Access Link paratransit service. The videos, funded by the FTA's Access and Mobility Partnership Grants Program, are captioned in 6 languages in addition to English. As NJ Transit very much recognizes the critical importance of providing a welcoming and inclusive environment for everyone, customers and employees alike, this is the perfect segue to share the launch of our newest Company Employee Resources Group for people with disabilities. We now have 6 organization-wide diversity and inclusion-focused Company Employee Resource Groups, or SERGs as we refer to them. In addition to this new SERG for people with disabilities, we have our Black African American SERG, our SERGs for LGBTQ+, Asian American, Pacific Islanders, women, and emerging generations. April marked the 1-year anniversary of our SERG program rollout, and I'm pleased to note that the program has received overwhelmingly positive, enthusiastic employee participation and support that has helped foster inclusiveness across the organization. To wrap up today, I'd like to briefly note how pleased I was to attend the NJ Transaction Conference last month in Atlantic City. This was the first in-person transaction conference in 3 years, and I'm proud that New Jersey Transit was well represented, bringing some of our best and brightest to participate in the many informative panels over the 3-day conference. The conference not only provided a productive forum to learn from one another and share best practices, but also it was clear to me that we collectively have really turned the page on the darkest chapters of the COVID-19 pandemic. And with that, Chair, I conclude my remarks and turn the floor back to you.
Thank you, Kevin. At this time, I would ask if there are any comments from the public.
There are 9 in-person speakers, 5 pre-registered telephone speakers, 4 queued telephone speakers for a total of 18 speakers. Speakers, in order to give everyone an opportunity to be heard, comments will be limited to 3 minutes. Priority access will be given to pre-registered in-person participants, followed by any additional in-person speakers. We will then take comments from pre-registered telephone participants, followed by any additional telephone participants who are queued to speak. Those participating by telephone, if you have not already done so, please press *1 on your telephone keypad to enter the queue to speak. You will hear a brief tone to indicate you have successfully entered the queue. The first speaker is Sally Jane Geller.
Good evening. Sally Jane Geller, Chairperson, Lackawanna Coalition. Train 6210 on the Montclair Bruton line does not stop in Newark for passengers who need to transfer to a Hoboken train. Failing such a stop, passengers can be caught in a time crunch of either arriving too early or risk being late to their job or appointment. With Newark being such an important interchange, we think it's important for most, if not all, trains to stop there. Last night, we learned that we don't have departure vision, we have departure fiction. Coalition Chairperson Emeritus Dave Allen joined our Maestro Conference Committee meeting from the Mount Arlington station, where he was waiting for a 7:31 train. It did not show up. So we continued on with the meeting, realizing that the next train was 8:56, the last train of the night, number 884. We checked the New Jersey Transit site. Seeing the 7:31 train, number 882, had been canceled at Mount Olive for mechanical issues, raised our concerns about train 884. The meeting ended, but we stayed on, watching departure fiction to ensure that 884 departed Hackettstown as scheduled. Seeing that it did, we continued watching and chatting as it also departed Mount Olive, Netcong, and Late Hopatcong. And were flummoxed when the Phantom train also departed Mount Arlington on schedule without ever having been seen by the two waiting passengers, thus leaving them stranded. Curiously, departure fiction went on to record the train's entire route, skipping only Denville and Summit, with projected arrival via Newark Broad Street at 10:05 at Hoboken at 10:24. When 884 was a Newark no-show, at 10:06 Departure Vision took over from Departure Fiction, and the train was suddenly listed as delayed with new arrival times of 11:29 and 11:48 respectively. I did not check after that, having seen some degree of accuracy return. Meanwhile, back in Mount Arlington, what were passengers to do? I looked up the NJ Transit Police's phone number, and Dave called to learn that there was a rescue train. Seeing that train approach, he called the other passenger to come quickly from the ticket machine area and flagged it down. There were 5 or 6 other passengers, as well as some crew members aboard the rescue train, and although briefly held in Denver, they did make the 9:41, which held for them, avoiding yet another wait of close to an hour for the 10:29 train. Dave's intended 8:30 arrival home was more like 10:45. A solid 2-hour delay, although at least he was not stranded overnight by a train seen only by departure fiction. In addition to exposing how unreliable this is, why did Denville and Summit not record the Phantom train? Both were scheduled stops, yet they alone did not automatically record a train that never arrived. How did they maintain accuracy when so many stops did not? This again points up the need for restoration of phone service until well into the evening. If an app fails, there is no recourse. Talking to a human being would not only provide better information, but also enable suggestions to be made or actions to be taken to resolve passenger problems. Good customer service deserves no less. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Murray Bowden, followed by Ken Dolsky.
I sent you what I was going to talk about today in an email, so you don't have to repeat that. Thought I'd tell you a little bit about myself, though. I graduated Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute as an electrical engineer in 1955. My first job was with Curtis Wright on the team that built the first flight simulator that used the cockpit from an airplane, C-118. And as a result of my knowledge there, over the years, I've probably been in 100 cockpits, talked to 300 or 400 pilots, and each pilot upgrades me there. I was race director of the Yonkers Marathon for a number of years. I was president of the Yonkers Rotary Club. I brought the first woman into the Yonkers Rotary Club, and my vice president was a woman, and she became the first woman president of the Yonkers Rotary Club. I was president of the Yonkers JCs, and we brought Soapbox Derby to Yonkers. I recommended New Jersey Transit for the Rudin Transportation Award, and Richards showed me the plans. It's the ARC, it's the current Gateway Tunnel. It was called the ARC Tunnel then, and you did get the award for transportation, whatever it was, I can't remember. I've been through the I can't get the words out straight, yard. Jim Weinstein had them show me every facet of the maintenance and repair and everything else having to do with railroad trains. And of course, things have changed since then. But I'm also losing my mind. It's getting more and more difficult. I have the early stages of dementia. I can't remember names, and a lot of people I have to ask who they are. It's been an education to be at the New Jersey Transit. Going back to the Jim Simpson, who got me started here, all the way down to the people all around. Downstairs, I watched somebody had some problems, and your staff excellently de-escalated, took care of it, and they did it the right way. So it's been a pleasure to be here. You all have my notes about what I needed to say today, and I'm going home. It's been a long day. And it's been a pleasure to know all of the people here at New Jersey Transit. Thank you for helping me to learn the things I needed to know.
Thank you. The next speaker is Ken Dolsky, followed by Sam DeFalco.
Good evening. I'm Ken Dolsky from the Don't Gas the Meadowlands Coalition. On May 3rd, the Don't Gas the Meadowlands Coalition sent you, the members of the board, a letter responding to comments from you at the last board meeting. To ensure you all hear its contents, we're now going to read some excerpts from this letter out loud in parts. It is clear that we are far apart on our perceptions of virtually every aspect of the Transit Good project. Comments made at the last board meeting by board members have only widened these differences. Here's a summary of our perceptions. Supporting detail will be provided by subsequent speakers. The RFP is biased towards a gas power plant solution, with virtually no chance that NJT will receive a renewable energy technology solution for implementation now. Transit statements on renewable energy technology acquisition appear to be based on either a lack of understanding as to how renewable energy solutions are bid, constructed, and operate, or Transit's clear preference for a gas power plant or both. The board statements describing renewable energy technologies as being neither available nor suitable have already eliminated renewable energy-based solutions. Since there are virtually no other fossil fuel options, gas has already been selected as the fuel of choice, or would certainly be acceptable. The board deliberately decided to not request bids for renewable energy-based solutions because it is biased in favor of a gas power plant and was fearful that a renewable energy-based solution would be too competitive with the gas plant. Telling us, as you did at the last meeting, to let the process work is a disingenuous request. We see it as a ploy to stop our coalition from making life difficult for Transit, and if we do this, we will end up with a gas power plant and little further recourse. Members of the board have made vague, weak, and totally unsupported statements in an effort to discredit renewable energy technologies. None would be accepted in any rigorous engineering analysis, yet these statements have not been challenged by any other board members. Chair Gutierrez's statement that the time frame for running on clean energy isn't tomorrow demonstrates a troubling and cynical interpretation of state policies as an excuse to build a gas power plant. Demonstrates a lack of understanding of the issues and solutions to the climate crisis and is not supported by any state or IPCC reports. The time to get off fossil fuels is now, not even tomorrow. Based on the history of this project, our coalition has no confidence in New Jersey Transit statements or in its process. The rationales for our coalition's perceptions are as follows. First, Transit perceives the RFP sets out an unbiased playing field that is open to all technical solutions and favors none. Our coalition perceives the RFP to be very slanted and biased towards a gas power plant solution with virtually no chance Transit will receive a renewable energy-based technology solution. There are several reasons for this, as will be outlined by subsequent speakers. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Sam DeFalco, followed by Carol Gate Fantini.
The reasons are, the RFP limits bidders to proposals for a centralized energy facility on its Copper Coke site, which it has selected for the gas power plant. While New Jersey Transit is careful to avoid using the words gas in the RFP, this is the same solution specified in the EIS that was released in 2020 for this transit grid project. Simply because the RFP does not mention specific technologies does not make it technology agnostic. This site is only appropriate for a fossil fuel energy source, not a distributed energy source like solar, which would require a lot of space. The RFP provides no support for the siting of solar panels, something a truly technology agnostic document would do in order to ensure all technologies have equal support. Unfortunately, New Jersey Transit views this type of information as demonstrating bias. Our perception is that New Jersey Transit's statements on technology acquisition are based on either a lack of understanding as to how renewable energy solutions are bid, constructed, and operate, or New Jersey Transit's clear preference for a gas power plant, or both. At the April 13th board meeting, in which Chair Gutierrez said that New Jersey Transit has the opportunity to accept alternative fuel proposals, she also said that renewable energy technologies are not available. She was supported by Board Member Gordon and Vice Chair Fulton, who questioned renewable energy sustainability. Our perception is that the board member statements have already eliminated a renewable energy-based solution, leaving gas the only fuel of choice. New Jersey Transit could have avoided being in this position by having the RFP ask for bids on both fossil fuels and renewable energy technologies. It could have had an apples-to-apples comparison and all the issues regarding adequacy of renewable energy technologies, and comparable costs could have been addressed. Our perception, therefore, is that New Jersey Transit deliberately decided not to request bids for renewable energy-based solutions because it is biased in favor of a gas power plant and was fearful that a renewable energy-based solution will be too competitive. A second cause of this perception gap is the New Jersey Transit position that we should let the process work. As environmental advocates, we are very familiar with this sleight of hand technique. We see it all the time. The developer downplays the need for any concern by saying that the project is years away from completion and is required to go through a rigorous environmental review process. Our perception is that this is disingenuous. We see it as a ploy to get our coalition to stop making life difficult for New Jersey Transit, and if we do this, we will end up with a gas power plant and little further recourse.
Thank you. The next speaker is Carol B. Fantini, followed by Ray Watson.
Good evening. The third cause of this perception gap is the lack of supporting analysis and detail from the board for their statements on the problems with renewable energy technologies. Chair Gutierrez Scafchetti said, in some places, that technology that you ask us to look at for the size of the system is not available. What places? How does she know this without any apparent analysis, let alone a complete study? NJT only needs about 250 acres for solar. To the best of our knowledge, NJT has never undertaken a study of available space for solar. Vice Chair Fulton said, we have heard very little discussion from people about the reality of energy development and what it takes to develop the amount of power needed to run the system and to store that energy. That is not true. Our coalition provided extensive information on the topic, including the use of solar energy in other countries to provide traction power. Why isn't NJT asking for this in its RFP in order to make educated decisions based on transit grid specifics? Is a lack of discussion a valid reason to conclude a technology is not viable? Isn't this why NJT hired energy consultants? If he wants to discuss this with people, we would be very happy to accommodate him. Member Gordon said, let's not lock ourselves into one particular technology. Clean energy technologies are changing with lightning speed. What looks good today may not be the best alternative in the future. We need to consider fuel cells and hydrogen and decarbonized gas and technologies that we can't even talk about now. That was Gordon. This statement implies that no one should ever build anything because technology will improve. The absurdity of this statement is self-evident. Renewable energy technologies are much more modular than fossil fuel infrastructure, making it much more feasible to upgrade portions of a system as technologies improve. It is fossil fuel infrastructure that would lock in NJT to a single technology that improves very slowly and will soon be non-cost competitive, to say nothing of its ongoing climate and public health costs. We recommend that NJD review the Rocky Mountain Institute study entitled "A Bridge Backward: The Risky Economics of New Natural Gas Infrastructure in the United States." It states, "The rapidly falling prices and improving capabilities of technologies that can combine to form clean energy portfolios, CEPs, call into question the cost effectiveness of investment in new gas infrastructure. We find that continued investment in gas projects risk creating tens of millions of dollars in stranded cost by the mid-2030s, when new gas plants and pipelines will rapidly become uneconomic as clean energy costs continue to fall. By the mid-2030s, the cost to build a new CEP are likely to undercut just the cost to operate a gas-fired power plant. By 2035, over 90% of proposed combined cycle gas plants, if built, would be uneconomic to run compared to the cost of building a new clean energy portfolio."
Excuse me, you've exceeded your time. Thank you.
Okay. Do you really want to be uneconomic in your planning?
Thank you. The next speaker is Ray Watson, followed by Paula Rogobin.
Hello. Before I begin, I'd just like to introduce myself. My name is Ray Watson. I'm 17 years old. I'm a youth climate organizer, and I'm here because I believe that my generation deserves a livable future. Building a gas power plant in 2028 will be a risky financial proposition. New Jersey Transit must be able to demonstrate that it is financially superior to a renewable energy solution. Member Gordon also said, "What I have heard from experts on microgrids is that the energy storage technology required does not exist today. Maybe a few years off, but it does not exist today. And if you want to challenge me on that, I encourage you to point me to a mass transit system somewhere on the planet that can generate the power and has the storage capability to operate when the sun isn't shining." That was Gordon. His first statement is vague, not backed up by any citations, and his second statement isn't proof of anything. Essentially, he's arguing that if no one else is doing it, it cannot be done, which is the same as saying that no one ever invented anything, which is just wrong. Again, the absurdity of this statement is self-evident. Our coalition has provided several examples demonstrating the basic feasibility of this approach. The fact that none of them is on the scale needed by New Jersey Transit is not proof of the impossibility that Member Gordon perceives. Several times in the past, we have explained the synergistic nature of hybrid renewable energy microgrids to the New Jersey Transit Board and management, in which a firm fossil fuel power source can be used for short periods only when renewable energy and storage is not sufficient, but apparently this has not been accepted, and the lack of sunlight at night is a fatal flaw for solar energy in the world. All of these comments have been extremely vague with no backup evidence. If these are based on the work of New Jersey Transit's paid consultants, why has New Jersey Transit not made them public? Members of the board may find these casual remarks compelling, with not one of them questioning any of the statements, but our perception is that they are meaningless and would be rejected by any technical engineering or scientific proceeding. The Don't Gas the Meadowlands Coalition worked with a solar industry expert prior to the release of the RFQ and the RFP. The advice we received is that renewable energy and storage are very viable candidates for this project and are subject to the availability of land for panels and would have very competitive financial benefits. The board's collective statements clearly show an unsupported bias against a renewable energy solution. Our perception is that the New Jersey Transit Board will accept any statement, no matter how weak or how unproven, that supports its position and has not provided any credible criteria for evaluating this type of information. And as I see it, the decision to build more and more fossil fuel projects is destroying my future as a young person, and it's unacceptable. This letter will be continued in further speakers.
Thank you. The next speaker is Paula Rogobin, followed by Michael McCarskey.
The fifth cause of this perception gap is the lack of credibility of both NJT board and management. We previously described our dismay as the way this RFP has twisted and distorted NJT's statements, agreeing to maximize the use of renewable energy. Chair Gutierrez-Cacchetti stated at the October 21st, 2020 board meeting that if Paula Rogovan, meaning environmental activists, was not happy, the project would not advance. Before the RFP was issued, we were told that we would have the opportunity to review it and that our comments would be included in an addendum. Despite this, the RFP was delivered to bidders in late December 2021 with no notification to our coalition. When the RFP was finally made available to the public in February 2022, we were told it was not legal for NJT to discuss it and that we should wait and have faith in the process. So what did the chair mean by saying that if Paula Rogovan was not happy, the project would not advance? We took the chair's comments very seriously. We now feel that we've been locked out of the process and that the public has been treated with contempt. The chair also stated during the April 13th, 2022 board meeting that our coalition keeps changing the bar on the agency, but did not explain what she meant. We want to assure all members of the board and NJT management we have never changed our objective. As in 2019, our objective is still the development of a hybrid microgrid powered by renewable energy, incorporating energy storage technologies, which may use fossil fuel energy only during an emergency situation. Whatever credibility NJT generated in the October 2020 timeframe with its statement supporting the governor's direction and personal assurance to me has completely evaporated with this RFP and the issues described above. Our perception is that we have no reason to have any confidence in NJT's statements or its process. We hope this letter has clarified our perceptions, and that NJT recognizes we have valid reasons to view its calls for us to stand down and let the process work as unsatisfactory and would likely lock in a selection of a gas-powered solution. I'm going to skip a section because I know my time's running out. NJ Transit has a truly unique and amazing opportunity to be an innovative leader in the use of renewable energy for rail systems, as well as an opportunity to significantly cut greenhouse gases by using a large-scale solar and solar storage solution while improving its financial situation. Instead, we perceive it squandering these opportunities and wasting its grant money while dramatically increasing hazardous air pollution, thus harming all nearby residents. We are extremely disappointed with NJ Transit.
Thank you, Paul.
Thank you. The next speaker is Michael McCarthy, followed by Tim Sevener.
Good evening, Mike McCarskey, Affordable Energy for New Jersey and the Build the Transit Grid Power Plant Now folks. Did you know that according to the International Energy Agency, oil, coal, and natural gas provide 84% of the world's energy? That's just down 2% from 20 years ago. Oil powers 97% of all global transportation. So over the same 20-year period, governments, according to the World Bank, have invested over $5 trillion in renewable technology. So for $5 trillion in 20 years, we've made less than 2% gains. I'm no economist, but the data suggests a pretty abysmal ROI there. Now, I don't know about you, but if that's what I got back from my financial advisor, he would have been fired 18 years ago. But hey, our paid environmental friends are here, so, they want to tell us that the same renewables and strip mine batteries will save us. So take the Tesla Gigafactory, for example, in Nevada, the world's single largest battery factory. Did you know that it would take them 500 years to manufacture enough batteries to hold 1 day's worth of America's electricity needs? These claims of 100% renewable energy are nothing more than applause lines, and they are not real energy policy grounded in basic physics or physical chemistry. The maximum rate that a solar panel can convert the sun's photons is 33%. For wind, maximum capture, 60%. But we're here. Hey, let's play this game. To build the wind and solar that the folks here want, that would require us in the United States and right here in New Jersey to import 100% of the 17 critical minerals that we need to manufacture the solar panels, wind turbines, offshore transmission cables, and these same batteries that everybody believes are going to save the world. We import these right now, because we don't make them in America, from the only places on the planet where they're being mined, China and Russia. Let me know how that one plays out. Despite ignoring the laws of physics and simple geopolitical problems with all of these same lobbyists come here month after month to threaten you, the board. By my count, last month you were accused of mass murder at least 3 times. This meeting, who knows how many times. Now, if that isn't grounds for a defamation lawsuit, that's beyond me, but I'm not an attorney. In the entire history of human civilization, tomorrow's energy needs have always been greater than yesterday's. Advancements in technology, biomedical science will continue, and we will need more energy. If we want cars off the road in the most densely populated state in America that will need cost-effective and reliable transportation, that starts with building a natural gas power plant now, period, full stop. For the sake of sanity and everybody in New Jersey, please stop placating this nonsense and build the darn power plant now. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Tim Sevener, followed by the telephone speakers.
Hello, I'm Tim Sevener from the Transit Village of Mount Tabor and a board member of the New Jersey Association of Rail Passengers, and also helping with the Don't Gas the Meadowland. For many months, a wide coalition of environmental groups and transit advocates have presented evidence that solar plus energy storage could largely replace the proposed 24/7, 140 megawatt natural gas plant for the New Jersey Transit grid. To their credit, New Jersey Transit promised a major pivot to renewables last year based on much evidence and solar expertise presented by our coalition. Yet the Arcadis document to guide the RFQ process cites the following. Quote, a subsequent analysis by NJ Transit, which is consistent with our understanding of current market pricing, determined that solar power in conjunction with battery storage to meet project demands, which is 140 megawatts, would require a solar system covering over 6,000 acres at a cost of over $1.4 billion. Yet recent estimates are that NJ Transit Grid, which was provided by our solar consultant, demand for 140 megawatts could be provided with 350 acres of solar acreage, not 6,000 acres. Recent evidence from PATCO, which I distributed to the board, ironically on 4 New Jersey train stations, showed generation of 22 megawatts from 61 acres of parking canopies. Not. The Coppers Coke site itself has 130 acres, which is slated for warehouses, which could be mounted with solar panels, besides NJ Transit's central site, which could host solar panels providing 30 to 40 megawatts. Solar tunnels. I don't know if you know, I've told the board before, the Belgium-Hilversum tunnel in Europe is solar panels above the train. We could put those above where Newark comes into Newark Broad Street. We could also put them on I-280. Earlier, we gave you a list, and you guys have this, of our estimate of solar acreage from New Jersey Transit actual properties. Things like PATCO is doing. New Jersey Transit should follow the lead of PATCO serving Philadelphia and other rail agencies around the world and invest in solar. Another thing, it is already, since 2014, the Dutch have had their rail 100% supplied by renewable energy, and also Austria has the same. So it is possible, it is being done, and what is New Jersey Transit, we could be the leader in solar rail with some minimal, only as needed, fossil fuel backup.
Thank you,
Thank
Tim.
you very much.
Thank you. If you could just stand by one moment, I'm trying to get clarification regarding whether there's one more speaker.
Megan, yes, there appears to be another speaker in the room.
Okay, is it Robert Sidney Madison?
I thought it was.
Oh, he just went out to check. He just went out. He's wondering why he didn't get called.
Yes, he didn't sign up on the speaker registration form, but he can speak now.
Sid Madison, Piscataway, New Jersey. I'm mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore. What I'm not going to take anymore is the lack of taking climate science seriously. I'm going to make 3 points. Climate science, how badly we need action. The reason why action has not been taken, and an ask for 2 actions. First, the climate science. In 2019, over 11,000 climate scientists agreed with the following statement. Exactly 40 years ago, scientists agreed that alarming trends for climate change made it urgently necessary to act. Yet greenhouse gas emissions are still rapidly rising, with increasingly damaging effects on the Earth's climate. An immense increase of scale in endeavors to conserve our biosphere is needed to avoid untold suffering due to the climate crisis. That situation has not changed. This year, the Secretary General of the United Nations said, investing in new fossil fuel infrastructure is moral and economic madness. That is what climate science tells us. Building fossil fuel infrastructure is moral and economic madness. Second, how did we get here? 31 years ago, Isaac Asimov, in the book Our Angry Earth, answered that question. The scientists can't make these decisions for us. The government can't make these decisions for us, or won't, because the task is too great, and especially because our legislators and government agencies are under too much pressure from the special interests which cripple them. In fact, we will have to be the ones to force government to act. End of quote. That last part is you, members of the jury, and you will need to be the ones to force government to act. Third, some detail about New Jersey and then 2 asks. Last year, Governor Murphy signed environmental justice legislation and stated that the goal of 50% reduction in greenhouse gas emissions by 2030. New Jersey has 2 government agencies considering new fossil fuel infrastructure and many private fossil fuel infrastructure projects. By the way, a 2021 study for the BPU said those private projects were unnecessary. Bottom line, New Jersey is not living up to its commitments. Therefore, I ask you to take 2 actions. Replace the current RFP with a renewable one. Tell Governor Murphy to enact a moratorium on all fossil fuel projects in New Jersey. And by the way, I'd like to know if all the buses are going to be electric. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Madison.
Thank you. Operator, we would now like to open the floor for public comments by telephone participants, beginning with those who pre-registered to speak.
Certainly. And as a reminder, if you have not already done so, please press star 1 on your telephone keypad to enter the queue to speak. You will hear a brief tone to indicate you have successfully entered the queue. Each speaker will be given 3 minutes for their public comment. A warning will be provided with 1 minute remaining and again with 15 seconds remaining. At this time, there are 12 speakers in queue. And the first public comment is coming from Holly Cox. Holly, your line is live and your time will begin now.
Hi, my name is Holly Cox, a 23-year New Jersey resident. I'm here to ask you to amend your RFP for the microgrid project so it cannot include a dirty fossil fuel power plant and instead develop the project with clean, renewable energy. I've been speaking at these New Jersey Transit public meetings for over 2 years. At the last 2 meetings, I and others asked the board to respond in writing to our concerns about your RFP. None of us received answers to our questions. You have provided no advanced background information for important public meetings, no transparency, and no meaningful response to our comments. I can basically keep reading my same prepared comments at every New Jersey Transit meeting. You have failed to take your public comment responsibility seriously. 2 more years have gone by, and it is impossible to ignore the climate crisis. The UN IPCC report dated April 2022, only 1 month ago, stated there's nearly a 50-50 chance that Earth will reach a yearly average of 1.5 degrees Celsius or 2.7 degrees Fahrenheit within the next 5 years. Scientists warned we are already perilously close to tipping points that could lead to, quote, cascading and irreversible climate effects. IPCC scientists agree it's, quote, now or never to limit global warming to 1.5 degrees. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres further warned the world is, quote, on a fast track to disaster and insisted that unless governments everywhere reassess their energy policies, the world will be uninhabitable. He stated that unless action is taken soon, some, quote, major cities will be underwater and forecast, quote, unprecedented heat waves, terrifying storms, widespread water shortages, and the extinction of 1 million species of plants and animals. He continued that high-emitting governments, towns, cities, and corporations, sound familiar, are not just turning a blind eye, but are, quote, adding fuel to the flames by continuing to invest in climate-choking industries. The UN section directly called out fossil fuel projects like this. We are at a crossroads. The decisions you make now can secure a livable future or help lock us into an uninhabitable hot planet. We cannot achieve real resiliency by building new fossil fuel infrastructure. The emissions from a new fossil fuel plant that you want to build will further exacerbate the climate crisis and cause even more extreme weather events. And it would increase the pollution burden on already burned communities who suffer from deadly consequences of decades of environmental racism. Your, quote, sustainability plan is so vague that the only item listed under your 10-year strategic plan goal is, quote, promote a more sustainable future for our planet. That's your 10-year strategic plan. It looks like an 8th grade PowerPoint and is pure greenwashing. There are no deliverables in there, just corporate buzzwords. In fact, the current head of your sustainability plans comes from Hess Oil Company. This is a direct conflict of interest. I'm calling on you to answer our questions and not just hold these seemingly meaningless meetings. Start taking proactive action, not just rubber stamping the same old fossil fuel relics. We are running out of time for you to be leaders and commit to a 100% clean and renewable microgrid to keep our planet habitable. As Paula Ragovin said, New Jersey Transit has a huge opportunity here to be an innovative leader. We ask you to be the leaders we need and work toward creating a clean and sustainable future for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you. Your next public comment is coming from Andy Weiss. Andy, your line is live and your time will begin now.
Good evening, Board. Another month of degrading and filthy conditions on NJ Transit. Another month of failure. Another month of 1 bus an hour on weekends in Hudson County. This board should be embarrassed with the conditions on NJ Transit. This week, I entered a bus that had a floor covered with dirty rainwater from a leak. It left the bus garage this way. It left the bus garage with water all over the floor, dirty water from a leak, from the rain. This week, I also had several buses with ripped seats. All of them. Like my bus home today had ripped seats all over the place. A lot of them have like blue masking tape, blue tape, heavy blue tape on them, with exposed foam coming out of the seat cushions. This is all over Hudson County, these buses. They just, you know, they come out from the garages and in filthy conditions with tape and exposed foam on the seats. It's uncivilized. You know, it's degrading. It's unacceptable. This is not the way my government is supposed to work. Unacceptable. You guys are failing. My buses are filthy on the outside and the inside. The windows of the buses are dirty, and the outside of the buses have chipped paint. Chipped paint. The back doors on many NJ Transit buses don't work. Many doors also don't work on Hudson Bergen Light Rail. After you go through another door to go way down the train. The buses on Hudson Bergen Light Rail have terrible frequency. The weekend service is completely unacceptable. A giant service cut. That's what the weekend service is. There's no service. The giant cut. This board dismisses best practices like a regional fare card with the MTA pass that was recommended by your own audit, that was paid by the governor. You just ignored it. You just throw it away. You ignored the NJ Transit audit recommendation for a regional fare card, and that is completely unacceptable. Governor Murphy and NJ Transit has no bus rapid transit. How do we have no bus rapid transit in New Jersey? All over the country, they have bus rapid transit. The most dense state in the nation. We have no regional fare card. They're doing it all over the nation, regionalizing the fare card. And you ignore your own audits that we paid $1 million for. Young people are running away from obsolete NJ Transit. This board has no vision and lacks work ethic. This board sits on its hands at every board meeting and does not speak up for NJ Transit passengers. This board is not a friend of NJ Transit riders. This is why we need a real independent customer advocate, because this board is not fighting for us. You don't speak for us. We've been waiting for a real customer advocate for years. NJ Transit scares people away from public transit. It's like Chris Christie is still running this system. Just a complete month of failure. Thank you.
Thank you. Your next public comment is coming from Adam Wright. Adam, your line is live and your time will begin now.
Good evening, Board. I again asked New Jersey Transit to consider the idea of a masked car on trains. The idea would be one car where riders choosing to mask up could be assured that those around them would also similarly be masked. What those do around us matters. It is exhaled particles that masking helps to protect from in substantial part. Epidemiologists would tell you that the current variants are surging. We've seen a rise of 140% in COVID infection rates in the last month because of the decline in masking in indoor spaces like trains. I stress that this would be different from the mask mandate, would apply to a single car, so it should be less contentious. Anything short of this makes masking a half measure to those responsible enough to still do it on board. We should not let bad actors dictate policy. I've given you detailed ideas on ways we can enforce this without making train crews police it. Let's have a dialogue. Let's set up a conference call. Let's see if we can figure out a way to do a pilot program. We're running a lot of trains regularly that have one or more cars closed. My afternoon train has 3 cars closed. Please, if you're going to say no to even a pilot program, explain why it's more important that we run trains with empty cars. If you can't do both quiet cars and masked cars, why do the quiet cars take precedence as we are still in a pandemic with rising numbers? Even an unenforced car would be an upgrade. If I can get in a car where 80% of people are masked instead of 60, that meaningfully reduces my risk. We have a lot of riders who are immunocompromised, who don't have an alternative to transportation, who go home to vulnerable parents, to children under 5 who are not yet eligible for vaccinations. We can do better. Let's at least try a pilot program on trains that have the capacity that run with empty cars. Otherwise, the agency and the union have to explain why it's more important to crowd people in just a portion of the train without a meaningful option. Mr. Corbett, on April 29th, the board asked you during the Operations Customer Service Committee meeting to consider at least a pilot program or provide a meaningful explanation why you won't. You have not done that. April 2nd, during the Assembly Budget Committee hearing, you said the agency is not considering this. How could you have given it meaningful consideration in the span of a weekend where you get ready for an important budget hearing? How could you give it meaningful consideration without reaching out to riders like me, to the proponents? Let's set up a conference call. Let's try to work through this, or at least give me a meaningful answer to my questions on why we can't try a pilot program where we have empty cars, even if we don't actively enforce it beyond announcements and signage. We need a customer advocate and a customer advisory board. Staff have not engaged in dialogue. Without those in place, this will continue.
15 seconds.
Please, let's set the conference call, try to work something out. Please also have Suzanne Mack and the advisory committees reach out to me. Let's see if we can figure something out. Please, let's have a dialogue, and I would ask for an opportunity to respond if there's an update you have not yet shared or if the union has anything to say based on what I presented to this point. Thank you.
Thank you. Your next public comment is coming from Erica Gould. Erica, your line is live and your time will begin now.
Hi, good evening. I'm commenting today to once again show my support for the proposed mask car, which would be one car per train in which everyone is required to wear a mask. My partner commutes by train and we're both high risk, and I know that we're not the only ones. I want to remind everyone listening that most face masks are designed to protect other people from the mask wearer, not the other way around. That is why it's not enough for a vulnerable rider to just wear their own mask in a group of unmasked individuals. Personally, I used to be an NJ Transit customer and currently choose not to ride because the environment isn't as safe as it could be. In the media, I read about train crews' worries about enforcement based on their experience dealing with the federal mask mandate when it was in effect. But there's quite a big difference between that and how a mask car would function. The mask car passengers would be self-selecting. If there's a sign that says mask required, someone who doesn't want to wear a mask isn't likely to sit in that car. Designating a mask car isn't difficult, it isn't expensive, and could be put into place immediately. I ask that you at least try it. People's lives are at stake here.
Thank you. And the next public comment is coming from Tina Whitehouse. Tina, your line is live, and your time will begin now.
My name is Tina Whitehouse, and here is the final section of the Dope Gas for Meadowlands letter. A central cause of the perception gap is the board's lack of understanding about the imminent threats from climate change. In characterizing the guidance from Governor Murphy, Chair Gutierrez-Cassetti stated, quote, "The governor has laid out very clear rules to all of us for the course of time in which we have to be running on clean energy, but that time isn't tomorrow," unquote. Our coalition does not concur with this assessment, and neither do any of the administration's key climate change documents, not the Energy Master Plan, not the 2020 Global Warming Response Act, not Governor Murphy's Executive Order 274, and not the IPCC report, April 2022 report. These documents, in fact, state the opposite. From the Energy Master Plan, quote, "There is near unanimous scientific consensus that the global threat of climate change is grave and that it demands swift local action," unquote. From the Global Warming Response Act report, quote, "Minimizing these risks requires immediate commitments across all levels of government and sectors of the economy to facilitate the steep reduction of greenhouse gases. Without steep and permanent reductions in global greenhouse gases within the next several years, New Jersey's people and their property will experience significant adverse effects of climate change," unquote. From the Executive Order 274, quote, "Reducing the severity of adverse climate change impacts requires steep and immediate reductions in greenhouse gas emissions on an economy-wide basis. Emissions reductions in the next decade are critical to reducing the severity of climate change," unquote. And from the IPCC report, quote, "All global model pathways that limit warming to 1.5 degrees involve rapid and deep and in most cases immediate greenhouse gas reductions in all sectors," unquote. The chair's statement is twisting the objectives of these state documents by implying that it would be acceptable for the state and New Jersey Transit to meet these goals at the last minute, December 2049. She is also assuming that it is acceptable to first increase greenhouse gases before making any attempts to reduce them. This is not the policy of the Energy Master Plan, the Global Warming Response Act, or the Executive Order 274. The chair's perception also flies in the face of a fundamental tenet in applying climate change technologies, that the best opportunity to incorporate low or zero greenhouse gas emission technology is during new construction. Technology retrofits are always more costly than original construction. Our perception is that New Jersey Transit has created this troubling and cynical interpretation of state policies as an excuse to build a gas power plant. It demonstrates a total lack of understanding of the issues and solutions to the climate crisis. And might I say, we are in a crisis.
Thank you. And the next public comment? is coming from Liam Ritzler. Liam, your line is live and your time will begin now.
Thank you and good evening. My name is William Ritzler. I'm the New Jersey coordinator for the Delaware Valley Association of Rail Passengers. The Delaware Valley Association of Rail Passengers would like to express appreciation for the restoration of interstate service on bus routes 313, 315, 317, 408, and 409, planned to occur on June 25th. We would like to thank all the New Jersey Transit staff and leadership and all the external stakeholders who worked to make the restoration happen. The needs of bus passengers on long-distance routes in southern New Jersey will be better accommodated by the return of interstate service. Despite this positive step, we would like to remind everyone that the room for improvement in southern New Jersey remains. The Atlantic City Rail Line continues to suffer service disruptions almost daily. The long-term plan for improving the Atlantic City Rail Line, as articulated in 2009 during the Corzine administration, remains unrealized. The Glassboro-Camden line should move forward with a definite commitment to complete the project. The Southern District BCG bus system redesign should move forward with a primary focus on achieving outcomes beneficial to the passengers. The Delaware Valley Association of Rail Passengers stand ready to act as informed and willing partners as New Jersey Transit proceeds into the future. We look forward to working with New Jersey Transit to make public transportation in southern New Jersey as attractive to the passengers as possible. I would like extemporaneously to speak on two other issues. I would like the board to consider, given the fact that there are folks like myself who are 2 hours away by car and 3.5 hours away by public transportation from Newark, New Jersey, I would like them to consider possibly on alternate meetings, flipping the order of calls and personal in-person speaking so that the callers might go first and the in-person speakers go second. I'd also like to invite the New Jersey Transit Board, given the fact that you have now transitioned back to in-person meetings, to have a meeting location somewhere in southern New Jersey for those of us who live in that part of the state. Thank you.
Thank you. And the next public comment is coming from Keith Boss. Keith, your line is live and your time will begin now.
Good evening. I am here this evening as a representative of the Metuchen-Edison area branch of the NAACP and of the Health, Education, Energy, and Pollution Subcommittee of the NAACP's statewide Environment and Climate Justice Committee. New Jersey Transit's plan to electrify its bus fleet and undertake other laudable endeavors described this evening are good signs that the agency has its eye on the future. It is therefore puzzling that it wishes to proceed with a backward-looking initiative in terms of the proposed backup power plants in Kearney by submitting an RFP that utterly prejudices the outcome in favor of fossil fuel power generation. The NAACP is an organization that is abundantly aware that environmental degradations of all kinds, including those caused by burning fossil fuels that contribute to global warming, harm our members and constituents first and worse than any other demographic. You may not like that, but it happens to be the truth. Therefore, I address you tonight to ask that you do the right thing by, 1, setting aside your current RFP that clearly dictates new fossil fuel infrastructure, and 2, submitting a new one that, instead of causing harm, brings social benefits to New Jersey residents now and in the future, including those living in its most overburdened communities. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak this evening.
Thank you. There are 5 participants remaining in queue at this time. And as a reminder to any other member of the remote audience who would like to enter the queue to make a public comment, you may press star 1 on your telephone keypad. Once again, that'll be star 1 to enter the queue to make a public comment. Your next public comment is coming from James Veach. James, your line is live and your time will begin now.
Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak.
My name is James Veach. I'm a resident of Teaneck, New Jersey, a retired attorney and a veteran of many trips on the Pascagoula Valley line. I'm also a member of the Teaneck Democratic Municipal Committee, and I want to speak tonight about the board itself. We finally have a full complement of directors on the board. In 2018, the legislature expanded this board to 13 members, and it included a representative director for rail travelers and for bus travelers. And those positions remained open for over 3 years, inexplicably open for more than 3 years. In one fell swoop, the governor has now nominated 5 people to the board, so we finally are up to 13 directors. Well, actually, 2 have been directly appointed and 3 will have to be confirmed. But we're almost there with 13 directors. However, we have yet to appoint a consumer advocate, a passenger advocate. We desperately need that advocate. These board meetings are dull and lifeless. There is no spark among you. It's almost like a show trial. We need a consumer advocate to speak for the rail passengers and for the bus passengers, somebody who can ask hard questions and expect answers, somebody who can kick up some dust, somebody who can bring some life to these meetings and ask the hard questions. In the process of getting ourselves finally up to 13 members, we lost a good board member, Mr. Adams. He was one of the few who could actually vote against a budget. And his reward, he's unappointed.
1 minute.
We need a consumer advocate to deal with the complaints voiced by other people here tonight, like Mr. Weiss, the ripped seats, the dirty buses. We need somebody to talk about these problems, who's got authority and can expect answers. So, Ms. Giblin, my comment is directed specifically at you. Please go to the governor tomorrow and tell him people are not going to wait 3 more years for a consumer advocate. Thank you.
Thank you. The next public comment is coming from David Pringle. David, your line is live and your time will begin now.
Thank you. Confirming you can hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Your line is live. Please proceed.
Great. Thank you. My name is David Pringle. I'm representing Clean Water Action and in Tower, New Jersey tonight. I would like to just make first a constructive suggestion that you let folks know when they're in the queue. If you could announce the next 2 or 3 people would make things much more efficient for everyone. Here in support of the letter we sent and the disappointment at the deafening silence that it met. We sent it to, I think, over a dozen folks in the governor's office and at New Jersey Transit, and it was met with deafening silence. Not even one person confirmed receipt of the email. We're all frustrated. It's not fun reading this letter. It's not fun, listening to it. It's not constructive dialogue, but you've really left us with no other choice, and it defies explanation. All we're asking for on the RFP is to have that constructive dialogue. Just like New Jersey Transit did last week on Monday and on Thursday in the Assembly and Senate budget committees, we're not asking for any more dialogue on this than you're having with them. And if you can do it with them, you can do it with us. I mentioned this to the board chair and to Commissioner Gordon when I saw them both last Thursday night. The chair replied that she would discuss it with council. So I asked, has that discussion happened? What was the result? What's the reasoning behind whatever the decision is, and when will it be communicated to us? The letter might not be the most diplomatic, but it states a compelling case that it's impossible not to perceive, and perception until corrected otherwise is real, that there's tremendous bias in this RFP in favor of gas over renewable energy. It flies in defiance of the governor's commitment to 100% clean energy by 2050 and the direction he gave you a few years ago and the need to cut emissions of 50% by 2050.
1 minute remaining.
None of this is new. You've just made several public statements the last month or two that basically, until they're refuted, just confirm our concerns that, whether intended or not, but by design, this is going the gas way unless you guys do something differently. Your refusal to work this out with us, discuss it with us, while you're talking to others about it speaks volumes. It's not the procurement process. You're hiding behind that. It's something else. And it's impossible to conclude that it's right. You're pro-gas, whether, again, intended or not, that's going to be the result. So, until you guys change direction, you're leaving us no other choice to do annex, like read a letter that, and you're not respecting us. It makes it very difficult for us to respect you. You need to do a better job here. What you're doing doesn't pass the straight face test, just like it's, what you've been doing on the consumer advocate. We need New Jersey Transit to do better. Thank you.
Thank you. The next public comment is coming from Adelia Levy. Adelia, your line is live, and your time will begin now.
Hi, everyone. Good evening. Thank you so much for allowing us to speak at this meeting. I'm calling as an Essex County resident. I used to ride the train to work 5 days a week, also on the weekends to visit the city and other parts of New Jersey. And ever since they removed the mask mandate, I am not able to safely ride the train. There are many disabled, pregnant, immunocompromised, cancer patients, other high-risk people who live in our state, and we all deserve safe public transit options. We are citizens of this state as well, and there is no safe public transit option available for us. As was mentioned by previous callers, I am here to support the implementation of one mask-required car on New Jersey Transit trains. COVID-19 is not over, and it's not going anywhere. It has surpassed measles as the most infectious airborne virus to ever plague humans within our recent medical history. The most infectious airborne virus. As an airborne virus, and this is something that many people don't know, COVID lives in the air for up to 6 hours after an infected person has left the space, especially a tiny, enclosed, unventilated space like a train. So if someone who is COVID positive and is not wearing a mask is in the train car, that virus lingers in the air and can still infect anyone who enters that car within the next 6 hours. So because of that, we need to have one masked car where we can safely enter the train and get to work and live our lives as everyone else does. This has to be done for a couple of reasons. First of all, for equity, all right? It is not fair to have transit that is not available for people in the groups that I mentioned above. And there is also a socioeconomic and a racial component to this as well, right? Individuals who are essential workers have no choice but to use the train. And this virus affects people differently based on the communities that they live in, the healthcare options available to them. And we have to think about that. If we want to be an equitable state, then we need to think about this in our risk management on our public transit trains. The second is environmental. I drive into the city to go to work because I don't have a safe option that protects my health and well-being and the well-being of my family. And that's terrible for the environment. The third is economic. New Jersey Transit is losing all of my transit money, all of the taxes from businesses that I would support along my route using public transit. All of that is going to New York City, and New Jersey Transit is not getting any of it. All right, so where do we want our fares and our tax dollars to go? We want them to go to New Jersey Transit. You need the revenue, and a lot of customers are too scared to ride the train because they're not giving them a safe option. And finally, what do we stand for as states? We can't stand by and do nothing. We need immediate action. The final message that I have is that we don't have to worry about enforcement. Anyone who has ridden on a New Jersey Transit train and entered a quiet car knows that we never need a conductor to enforce that car. The passengers enforce it themselves by sheer fact that they will be the majority of the people in that car. Please act to make transit safe and accessible for all individuals in our state. We need immediate action, and I'd love to connect with the environmental advocates because our arguments support one another. Thank you so much.
Thank you. The next public comment is coming from William McClellan. William, your line is live and your time will begin now.
Yes, my name is William McClellan. I'm a volunteer with Food and Water Watch and a member of the Don't Gas the Meadowlands Coalition. I just want to reiterate the comments regarding transit grid that were made by a previous speaker, that it is clear that the public can no longer believe statements made by the New Jersey Transit Board or Chair Gutierrez-Scheschetti. The reason for this is simply because you have not told the truth. You need to be called out for this. You need to admit this. You need to apologize for this. You need to realize that you have not been honest and that you need to keep your word. When Chair Gutierrez-Scheschetti said in 2020 that, quote, if Paula Rogovan was not happy with this project, the project would not advance. This was an unequivocal statement. We were also told that we would have the opportunity to review the RFP and that our comments could be included in an addendum. Despite this, the RFP was delivered to bidders in late December 2021 with no notification to our coalition. You did not tell the truth. This is shameful. Our country has a severe problem with the truth these days. We have a former president who lies every day about who actually won the 2020 election. Many of his acolytes echo this. We have Congress people who denounced Trump on or shortly after the January 6th insurrection and then turned around only days later and supported him like total cowards. It has been a truly shameful time in our country's history. The truth matters. It's really all that matters. And if you people don't tell the truth to the public, you really have no business holding these positions. You must do the right thing and keep your word to the people of New Jersey with whom you are obligated to be honest.
1 minute remaining.
That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. The next public comment is coming from Rachel Davis. Rachel, your line is live and your time will begin now.
Hi, everyone. My name is Rachel Dawn Davis, and I'm the Public Policy and Justice Organizer for Water Spirit, a nonprofit spiritual ecology center and ministry of the Sisters of St. Joseph of Peace. We represent thousands of New Jerseyans and the Northeast region, folks young and old across generations for over 20 years and growing. We echo comments from speakers who earlier demonstrated effectively the ample opportunity for New Jersey Transit to respond to renewable energy prioritization that is still on the table. This is not answered by, as I've shared many times before now, a lackluster Energy and Sustainability Committee wasting more time humans lack. I have shared many times before that I have advocated for the past 2 years across Turtle Island, citing this New Jersey Transit smart switch to renewable energy path as an example. The one New Jersey Transit promised, as Paul Rogovan mentioned earlier. So what do we make of this? Embarrassment? Why not empowerment far beyond the archaic 2050 targets, which I successfully coalesced and advocated for 20 years ago as a recent Rutgers graduate? The question is, will there be the spirit of the environmental justice law ahead of the law's implementation and a serious investment in green job training programs to harden New Jersey's grid, the regional grid, and connect the dots that were so beautifully laid out by the 17-year-old who is fearing every day directly, resulting from government agencies' failure to act with seriousness to this crisis. This 17-year-old is joined by, according to the Lancet Planetary Health, 70% of young people who experience the loss of their imagined future right now. That is directly related to the lack of leadership in government action toward creative and smart planning, where the reality we know is happening and could be circumvented. It remains curious that New Jersey Transit would not want to be a leader alongside the EJ law and alongside what the governor has laid out to date. And again, 2050 is archaic. Hospitals and nursing homes and other larger energy consumers are being told by utility companies that their switches to electrification are helping the conservation in a big way.
1 minute
Solar
remaining.
siting has never been given, thank you, a true look-see across the state, namely the grayer, more vulnerable communities, and the opportunity to right wrongs exists still. Pope Francis's Laudato Si shares there is an urgent need to develop policies so that in the next few years, the emission of carbon dioxide and other highly polluting gases, such as methane, can be drastically reduced, for example, substituting for fossil fuels and developing sources of renewable energy. Worldwide, there is minimal access to clean and renewable energy. There is now a Laudato Si movement to regenerate Earth, and it's happening. New Jersey Transit Board, redraft the plan and move forward in the spirit of this EJ law. Young people are paying close attention. Thank you for the opportunity to speak.
And the next public comment is coming from Jason Anthony. Jason, your line is live, and your time will begin now.
Good evening, NJT board members. Jason Anthony from Amazon Labor Union. This is the first independent worker-led union formed by Amazon workers. I've been hearing some previous public speakers bringing the issue of bringing back one-car mask. Why not you guys bring back the whole concept of the mask mandate, like you guys in the other side of the Hudson, like the Metropolitan Transportation Authority, in other words, the MTA. They never dropped the mask mandate in the first place. Because in New York, we have to use the mask independently if it's in the train and or bus. And when I'm in New Jersey, independently if it's in North Penn, Hoboken, or Secaucus, it's so depressing because I'm seeing homeless people even before. Even worse, at New York Penn Station. So I don't know what you guys at New Jersey Transit Corporation are going to do about this issue that is getting annoying people like myself that don't feel safe using the system anymore. That even advocates like myself and the PCAC on the MTA side has brought up issues and nothing has been done. Kevin Corbett, what are you going to do? It's like we're talking to a wall and nothing has been done. So see you and when you guys are going to use Zoom, because this phone function, it doesn't work. Let's use Zoom like the MTA and the Port Authority. I'll see you guys next time.
And there are no further participants in the public comment queue at this time.
Thank you. At this time, I will call upon Suzanne Mack. I'm sorry, at this time I would ask if there are any board member comments. Since I can't see you, I'll rely on Megan for any board members who are in the room, and for board member Doshi and myself, we'll go last. So Megan, I'm going to leave this to you, or to Vice Chair Fulton. Board member Brooklyn.
I'll go first. Since I'm used to going first. Let me go first. You know, I really wasn't going to comment, and I probably shouldn't, because just the way I'm feeling. I actually really want to drive down to Trenton tomorrow and kiss the governor for not reappointing me. Because this happens to be the first time in my career that I've ever been accused of being dishonest, of not being accurate, of not being believable, and to be degraded like this in a public setting. I just don't even know how I feel about that. I sit with all of these board members, and I know the hard work and dedication that they put in to each and every one of the decisions that get made, each and every one of the items that come up, and how they challenge the team for each and everything that gets presented before the board. So it's just disheartening for me as a former New Jersey Transit rider and as a citizen of this state to listen to the way we're being categorized. I just don't know what to say. So let me just move on before my mic gets turned off. I just want to thank all the public speakers, all the 23 or 24 of you that came out to speak. We really appreciate your effort. We really appreciate, I don't appreciate what you've said, but I appreciate your effort. I appreciate your dedication, and I appreciate the fact that you, the environmentalists, really take to heart the environmental condition and really take to heart the governor's mandate and really set public, people, or put us, feet to the fire. But the respect has to go both ways. It's very hard for me to take anything that you say seriously when you accuse me of being dishonest, you accuse me of being a rubber stamp, and you accuse me of not taking to heart what you say. It's very hard for me. So let me just move on. I want to thank Kevin and the team for the going down to, for the budget assembly presentation in the Senate. Kevin and the team did a marvelous job. They represented New Jersey Transit well, and I want to thank him. Some of the senators and assemblymen can ask very tough and pointed questions, and I thought he was very professional, and I thought he was very on point with his answers. And finally, I want to also thank the team because I was at the Transaction Conference down in Atlantic City, because in my industry, transportation is what we do. And again, the New Jersey Transit team was professional. There were some staff people or some team members there who were there to learn, to participate, and to present, what New Jersey Transit is doing for the state, whether it's in South Jersey, Central Jersey, whether it was paratransit. I was just proud to be a board member of New Jersey Transit and to listen to them present. So without further ado, I have no other comments. Thank you.
Okay, Vice Chair, I'm gonna, if I may. I don't, the people who are on the phone, I don't know if they can see if they're watching. And for those of you in the audience, I don't know if you realize there are many of us who take notes. And so I will tell you, I'm going to specifically address it, but when people raise issues like Sally Jane Gellert, you are our first speaker tonight, and you raise issues about departure vision, I make notes. And I think I can confidently say the staff does too. But one of the reasons I make notes is because I ask the staff, and actually most of the staff already say they go and they look into it. So I will tell you officially, somebody I'm sure is going to look into what the issues were with departure vision. So similarly, I'm not going to go down the whole list. I could, but I took notes. So for those of you who raise specific issues about like Andy Weiss and the conditions of the buses and things like that, that's going to get looked into, okay? And whether it's me responding to you or someone from staff, more likely will get responses, because you're all correct. Those are not conditions that anybody should have to live with, and nobody, I think, on staff or this board thinks anything like that should continue. And I'm happy when people bring those issues to our attention. So I'm not going to go through every single one, but I do. I'm going to say this because I was made the board liaison to this the whole customer advocate process, and I think many of you here know I'm a bus rider, and even though I'm a private line bus carrier, that's because the private line took that contract. But I'm a bus passenger driver from New Jersey to New York. I so appreciate a lot of the things that you all bring to our attention, but I also live it. And so I understand Board Member Adams' upset because it's a little hard to keep hearing people take pot shots at our personal integrity, okay? But I understand the passion behind everything. But one of the things you have to realize is we live here too. And I think many of you are, you're operating on some misconceptions about how we personally feel about these issues. And I have to tell you, whether you want to believe it or not, many of us have personal opinions that are very similar to what some of you have expressed. And so that's on the bigger issue about transit grid, and I'm not going to get into details about that now. But when it comes to the consumer advocate, it is being worked on. I know you feel like you're not seeing progress, but I will repeat it again. Part of that is because many of us had very specific ideas of what we want this position to be. And I think we almost made it too big because the job that, the posting that went out, it is almost too much. And so we're going to have to think about this because we want someone who's very good and can fulfill the requirements that we all are expecting of someone who can be a passionate, active advocate for the riders of our system, whether it's rail or bus or light rail or whatever. So I'm telling you, we are going to move fast, but we also want to get the best possible person. And that's coming from somebody who's not just a board member, but a rider of public transportation. That's all I have tonight. Thank you.
Any other comments, my colleagues? Chair, that concludes the comments from the room. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair Fulton. Megan, I'm assuming that Board Member Doshi can hear me. Are there any other comments? Board Member Doshi?
Thank you, Commissioner. Yeah, I just wanted to concur with what my colleagues had said. I am used to getting comments like that being in public office, but it's not great when you hear them all the time. And I just wanted to concur that we're all trying our best. We all want the same things. And being on the sustainability team, we do take that into account. Renewable energy, we are thinking about that. It's not just the rubber stamp board. We ask questions. And like I said, we're doing what we can. For example, we approve buses to come in. We always ask if they can be hybrid or EV vehicles. And we're doing our best and we take it seriously. But thank you all for coming out tonight. That's it.
Okay, thank you. And Megan, I do not have any comments, so we are going to go ahead and move on. And I will now call upon Suzanne Mack to deliver the advisory committee report.
Suzanne, your line is live.
Thank you. I'm always, I had hoped to be with you tonight, and I hope I will be with you next month now that you're back in person. I'm always confused. I just want to make sure that I'm heard because I'm not sure I'm supposed to press *1. So I appreciate you confirming that I am on. I wanted to go off point tonight to follow up on Commissioner Adams' statement, just to thank him. I mean, what I will tell you is being part of, we all watch what you do at the board level, and I want to remind people in the audience and, our riders that these are volunteer positions and that people get appointed to these committees and these boards, but they're there because they care. No one would go out, and I'm reconfirming what Commissioner Adams said, but nobody would do this. Everybody is busy and everybody has other priorities and other interests that they could do, but people come on the New Jersey Transit Board with the appointments, but they also really are dedicated to the riders, and so I can understand some of the comments that were made tonight. It's hard from my point of view, since I've been on the advisory board for so many years. I mean, I watched the sustainability issue come up about 2 years ago while we were all on COVID and, doing the online things. But Copper's Coke it came up and New Jersey Transit Board was quiet and they commented. They took care of it. The doctors walked outside of the building on sustainability issues, and New Jersey Transit said they would consider it. And there are now sustainability policies that are being presented. I don't really understand totally. Maybe the public doesn't understand how much progress has been made, but I do want to say that I was very pleased tonight to see some of the progress, and every month there's more progress on things that the public brings. The public, as board member just said, people on the board take notes. We take notes. We listen to, sometimes there's 45 or 50 comments, and I do know that the board, through the chair and through Kevin Rocio, there is progress. So I hope somebody sees that, and I hope that it continues to happen. And I just wanted to, before I begin my formal report, I just wanted to say that I was very pleased that one of the board members asked about having the advisory board reach out to them on the quiet car or the COVID car. We'd be happy to listen. Our role as the advisory board is to advise the board members on the agenda, but we always reach out and respond to any requests from the public and from our riders on these issues. So, if the board can, through Kevin, if you can just let us, be in contact with this member to talk about this quiet car, COVID car. I myself know that I was at a public hearing last night at a planning board, and I was told by my members that COVID is, still out there, it's on the rise, and that meetings are being canceled. So certainly the advisory board to New Jersey Transit would welcome to getting in touch with you and discussing this issue more formally with you so that we can advise the board on it. So if that could happen, that would be really, that would be very helpful. But again, I just wanted to take the time to thank Board Member Adams for all his input. He's been a tremendous advocate for transit, and I hope, I wish him well, and I hope that he continues to give the board input as he transitions into other positions, which I know there are many that he's involved in. So now I just did want to say that on a formal note that, and he did mention the transaction conference, it was so invigorating to know that finally we were back in person. There were many members of the North and South Jersey Advisory Board that attended the meeting with Kevin Corbett, who's been very supportive of everything going on with New Jersey Transit. But we had a very, very detailed presentation by Bill Vieira on the FY23 governor's proposed budget. And again, there's no fare increase. Transit's been operating under very, very difficult scenarios over the last couple of years. Thankfully, they've been able to get some federal stimulus funding and been able to keep the ship afloat while we're navigating these difficult times. Also, if you go back, and many times I say this on my reports, the organization is back working. We had the Roosevelt Tunnel to advance the rail service to Sussex County, which has been asked for many, many, many times. Also, we've had the storage and inspection project in New Brunswick, and we've just had so many things. The governor has had people working on the Perth Amboy project, and we even get back to the point where you had take your children to work day. That's very hopeful to know that our members and our employees can actually get back to, these are the guys and girls that have been out on the front line providing the services. And I know there are always things that we can do more, and as the board member said, everybody took notes. Every bus that you said that needs to be cleaned, every train that needs to be updated, that's all going to be taken care of, because New Jersey Transit staff doesn't sit down between the board meetings. They actually take the public input and they actually do work on it. To that end, and this is like we're back in service. New Jersey Transit Bus is now taking a review of public input on their services. They want a review from the public on policies, procedures, and management. which is really good because we have one of the best police forces in the country. But we're reaching out and looking for community input. We're not shying away from community input, or at least I don't think the board is shying away from public input. As you know, we had very good public input tonight. And the other thing is we're getting to the summer. We're trying to get back to reality and get back to a place. And we kicked off our service to Monmouth Park on May 7th, which will continue through September 18th. We need to know that we can go back to a normalcy in a new reality, because this is a new reality. But I will tell you, 2 years ago, I would be sitting here wondering if New Jersey Transit Service would continue, and I, as part of the advisory board, am just very, very pleased and thankful to all the members of our online services, our bus drivers and our train operators who've been out there doing the hard job, being out there in the COVID environment, and to the board and the administrative perspective who have been just supporting getting that service back. The sustainability issues are here. I'm part of Resilience New Jersey, and they are here, and New Jersey Transit is part of that. Somebody heard you. Somebody heard the public, and somebody is doing something about it. So I thank our board member who is leaving us, but I also thank the public for coming out, and just anything that the advisory boards can help, any issue that we can get, if somebody from the public wants to send that over, we definitely will look at it for you. Thank you, Commissioner. That's the end of my report. Hello?
I got you, not to worry.
Thank you. I'm sorry. I need to see you visually. I just don't know. I don't know when I'm done. Thank you.
No, listen, we're all working through the exact same stuff. So, regrettably, it's conference week, and we're all kind of double working a little double time, but it is, it's all good. Okay. So we have had Suzanne Mack. I will now call upon Board Member Giglin to present the Operation and Customer Service Committee report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The Operations and Customer Service Committee received an update on trends, analysis, and actions for rail, bus, light rail, and access link. The committee also received an update on the cost of service. That concludes my report, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Board Member Giblin. At this time, I would ask Board Member Morocco to present the Administration Committee report.
The Administration Committee received a financial update. This included a summary of operating results compared to previous year's comparable period, an FY22 budget, 12-month farebox revenue compared to pre-COVID, major balance sheet items, and federal COVID-19 relief grant drawdown summary. Additional information was provided as part of the agenda materials, including the cost of service key performance indicators, 12-month farebox recovery, history of vacancies, attrition, and hires, ridership and revenue, and a monthly budget to actual comparison for July 2021 to March 2022. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Board Member Morocco. I will now turn to Vice Chair Fulton to present the Capital Planning, Policy, and Privatization Committee report.
Thank you, Chair. The Capital Planning, Policy, and Privatization Committee discussed the board items for the Community Mobility and Local Programs purchase of 451 cutaway minibuses with lift, remnants of Hurricane Ida Oradell Bus Garage construction service contract modification, mobile column lift replacement, Washington Township Bus Garage fire alarm replacement, and non-revenue vehicle report. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Vice Chair Fulton. At this time, I would call upon Brian Wilton, Chief Legal Officer, to present the action items.
Board Member Doshi and Nara are recused from the next item, 220528, and will leave the meeting.
Thank you, Madam Chair. At this time, I'd like to introduce Eric Leo, Senior Vice President for Capital Programs, to present Board Item 22 2205-28.
Thank you, Brian. We are presenting for approval item 2205-28, Community Mobility and Local Programs Purchase of 451 cutaway minibuses with lift. Authorization is requested to enter into a contract with Creative Bus Sales Incorporated of Carlsbad, New Jersey, for the purchase of 64 cutaway minibuses with lift, plus optional materials, in an amount not to exceed $7,143,202, plus 5% for contingencies, subject to the availability of funds and board approval of the local program's annual board item. Authorization is also requested tonight to enter into a contract with Roar Bus Group of Trenton, New Jersey, for the purchase of 79 cutaway buses with lift plus optional materials in an amount not to exceed $10,089,763, plus 5% contingencies, subject to the availability of funds and board approval of the local program's annual board item. Authorization is also requested to exercise the options to extend a contract with Creative Bus Sales Incorporated of Carlsbad, New Jersey, to purchase the remaining 168 vehicles over the 4-year option period in accordance with the request for proposal and the vendor's proposal at a cost not to exceed $5,273,800 for each additional 12-month period, plus 5% for contingencies, subject to the approval of funds and board approval of the local program's annual board item. And finally, authorization is requested to exercise the options to extend a contract with Roar Bus Group of Trenton, New Jersey, to purchase the remaining 140 vehicles over the 4-year option period in accordance with the request for proposal and the vendor's proposal at a cost not to exceed $4,808,726 for each additional 12-month period, plus 5% for contingencies, subject to the approval of funds and board approval of the local program's annual board item. We ask your approval of item 2205-28.
May I have a motion to approve board item 2205-28?
Motion Fulton.
Second
May I have a
Adams.
second?
Second Adams.
Is there any discussion on this motion?
Yes,
Hearing
Chair.
none,
Yes, Chair. I just have one brief comment, and I'm fully, and I apologize for being late to that. I'm fully in support of this item, but I would just ask the team that, if at all possible, to implore the recipients to, move toward electric vehicles as soon as possible. I know that there's a challenge with putting the infrastructure in place, but I believe that we could be the leaders in this and to try to push them and encourage them as soon as possible to convert some of these purchases to electric vehicles. Thank you, Chair. No other comments.
Thank you, Board Member Adams. Are there any more comments? Hearing none, I will ask the Board Secretary to take a roll call vote.
Roll call vote. Board Member Adams?
Yes.
Board Member Marocco?
Yes.
Board Member Keenan?
Yes.
Board Member Giblin?
Yes.
Vice Chair Fulton?
Yes.
Chair Gutierrez-Scacchetti?
Yes.
Motion carried. We will now have Board Members Doshi and Nara return to the meeting.
Yes, I have.
Okay, we have both board members back in the meeting.
Brian, please continue.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Once again, I'd ask Eric DeLeo, SVP Capital Programs, to also present board item 2205-29.
Thank you, Brian. We are presenting for approval item 2205-29, Remnants of Hurricane Ida, Oradell Bus Garage, Construction Services Contract Modification. Authorization is requested to enter into a contract with Anselmi and DeSico of Maplewood, New Jersey, to provide continued construction services for the Oradell Bus Garage in an amount not to exceed $450,000, plus 10% contingencies, subject to the availability of funds. We ask for your approval of item 2205-29.
May I have a motion to approve the board item?
Motion, Nara?
May I have a second?
Second, Caniff.
Is there any discussion on the motion? Hearing none. Megan, would you please take a roll call vote?
Roll call vote, Board Member Adams?
Yes.
Board Member Doshi? Yes. Board Member Maroko?
Yes.
Board Member Nara?
Yes.
Board Member Keenan?
Yes.
Board Member Giblin?
Yes.
Vice Chair Fulton?
Yes.
Chair Gutierrez-Scacchetti?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Madam Chair, at this time, I'd like to introduce Justin Davis, Senior Vice President, Regulatory and Government Affairs, and Chief of Staff, to present Board Item 2205-30.
Thank you, Chair and Board. We are presenting for approval item number 2205-30, non-revenue vehicle purchase. Authorization is requested to approve the use of state contracts for the purchase of up to 351 non-revenue vehicles for New Jersey Transit Organizational Services in the amount not to exceed $22,934,053 plus 5% for contingencies, subject to the availability of funds. We ask for your approval of item 2205-30.
Thank you, Justin. May I have a motion to approve Board Item 2205-30?
So moved, Adams.
May I have a second?
Second, Nara.
Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none. Megan, will you please take a roll call vote?
Roll call vote, Board Member Adams?
Yes.
Board Member Doshi? Yes. Board Member Maroko?
Yes.
Board Member Nara?
Yes.
Board Member Keenan?
Yes.
Board Member Giblin?
Yes.
Vice Chair Fulton?
Yes.
Chair Gutierrez-Scacchetti?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Madam Chair, at this time, I'd like to introduce Michael Kilcoyne, Senior Vice President, Surface Transit and General Manager, Bus Operations, to present Board Item 2205-31. Thank you.
We are presenting for approval item 2205-31, mobile column lift replacement. Authorization is requested to enter into a contract with Sturtle Coney, USA of Stevensville, Maryland, for the purchase of 85 mobile column lifts, 24 4-column lifts and 61 6-column lifts, in the amount not to exceed $5,959,074.89, plus 5% for contingencies, subject to the availability of funds. We ask for your approval of item 2205-31.
May I have a motion to approve?
Motion, Nara.
May I have a second?
Second, Caniff.
Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none. Megan, please take roll call vote.
Roll call vote, Board Member Adams?
Yes.
Board Member Doshi? Yes. Board Member Maroko?
Yes.
Board Member Nara?
Yes.
Board Member Keenan?
Yes.
Board Member Giblin?
Yes.
Vice Chair Fulton?
Yes.
Chair Gutierrez-Scacchetti?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Madam Chair, once again, I'd like to ask Michael Kilcoyne to present on Board Item 2205-32.
Thank you. We are presenting for approval item 2205-32, Washington Township's bus garage fire alarm replacement. Authorization is requested to enter into a Sourcewell cooperative purchasing agreement with Johnson Controls Fire Protection, Simplex Grinnell of Milwaukee, Wisconsin, for the purchase of a replacement fire alarm system for Washington Township bus garage, in the amount not to exceed $1,218,380 plus 5% for contingencies, subject to the availability of funds. We ask for your approval of item 2205-32.
May I have a motion to approve?
Giblin, so moved.
May I have a second?
Second, Adams.
Is there any discussion on the motion? Hearing none. Megan, please take a roll call vote.
Roll call vote, Board Member Adams?
Yes.
Board Member Doshi? Yes. Board Member Maroko?
Yes.
Board Member Nara?
Yes.
Board Member Keenan?
Yes.
Board Member Giblin?
Yes.
Vice Chair Fulton?
Yes.
Chair Gutierrez-Scacchetti.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Madam Chair, at this time, I'd like to introduce William Beccaria, Senior Vice President, Chief Financial Officer, and Treasurer, to present Board Item 2205-33.
Thank you. We are presenting for approval item 2205-33, Information Technology, Award for Managed Services and Consulting for Data Security Services to Secure Technology Integration Group Ltd. Authorization is requested to enter into a managed services and consulting contract for data security services with Secure Technology Integration Group Ltd. of Glen Rock, New Jersey for the period of July 1, 2022 through June 30, 2023 in an amount not to exceed $1,066,585 plus 5% for contingencies, subject to availability of funds. We ask for approval of item 2205-33.
May I have a motion to approve?
Motion Fulton.
May I have a second?
Second, Nara.
Is there any discussion on the motion? Hearing none. Megan, please take roll.
Roll call vote. Board Member Adams.
Yes.
Board Member Doshi.
Yes.
Board Member Maroko.
Yes.
Board Member Nara.
Yes.
Board Member Koenig.
Yes.
Board Member Giblin.
Yes.
Vice Chair Fulton.
Yes.
Chair Gutierrez-Scacchetti.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you, Madam Chair. At this time, I'd ask William Beccaria, Senior Vice President, CFO, and Treasurer, to present on 225-34.
Thank you. We are presenting for approval item 2205-34, Information Technology, Award for Contract for Oracle Software Maintenance and Support to Mythics for Database, Infrastructure, and Applications. Authorization is requested to enter into a software maintenance contract for Oracle EBS with Mythics of Virginia Beach, Virginia, for the period of June 21, 2022 through June 20, 2025, in an amount not to exceed $6,842,742.60, plus 5% for contingencies, subject to availability of funds. We ask for approval of item 2205-34.
May I have a motion to approve?
Motion.
May I have a second?
Second, Adams.
Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, Megan, please take a roll call vote.
Roll call vote. Board Member Adams.
Yes.
Board Member Doshi.
Yes.
Board Member Maroko.
Yes.
Board Member Nara.
Yes.
Board Member Koenig.
Yes.
Board Member Giblin.
Yes.
Vice Chair Fulton.
Yes.
Chair Gutierrez-Scacchetti.
Yes.
Motion carried. We have a board member recusal. Board Member Brown is recused from the next four items: 2205-35, 2205-36, 2205-37, and 2205-38. Board Member Brown will leave the meeting.
Madam Chair, for the record, Board Member Brown has left the meeting. At this time, I'd once again like to ask Bill Beccaria to present on Board Item 2205-35.
Thank you. We are presenting for approval item 2205-35, lease of 242 West 30th Street, New York, New York, to accommodate mandated rest space for New Jersey Transit trainmen. Authorization is requested to enter into a 10-year lease with Bernstein Real Estate to rent the second floor of its office building at 242 West 30th Street, New York, New York, totaling 8,000 rentable square feet, located less than 0.2 of a mile from New York Penn Station, which will be fit out at Bernstein Real Estate expense with locker rooms and common lounge space for a total lease cost not to exceed the total amount discussed in executive session, including rent, estimated expenses, and other incidental items, plus 5% for contingencies. We ask for your approval of item 2205-35.
May I have a motion to approve?
So moved, Adams.
Second, Giblin.
Thank you. Any discussion? I would just like to thank the staff. This has been a long process to return to our valued employees the necessary rest space that they have when they're working their standard shifts. So I want to thank the team for making sure this got done. Having said that, I'll ask Megan to take roll.
Roll call vote, Board Member Adams?
Yes.
Board Member Doshi? Yes. Board Member Morocco?
Yes.
Board Member Nara?
Yes.
Board Member Koenig?
Yes.
Board Member Giblin?
Yes.
Vice Chair Fulton?
Yes.
Chair Gutierrez Scacchetti?
Yes.
Motion carried. We have another board member recusal, Board Member Thomas, is recused from the next three items, 2205-36, 2205-37, and 2205-38. Board Member Thomas will leave the meeting.
Madam Chair, for the record, Board Member Thomas has left the room. At this time, I'd like to ask Bill Vaquera to once again present on Board Item 2205-36.
Thank you. We are presenting for approval item 2205-36, personal injury claim of Douglas Pastor. Authorization is requested to settle the claim of Douglas Pastor through his attorney at an amount discussed in executive session. The Attorney General has approved the proposed settlement subject to availability of funds. We ask for approval of item 2205-36.
May I have a motion to approve?
So moved, Koenig.
May I have a second?
Second, Nara.
Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, Megan, please take a roll call vote.
Roll call vote, Board Member Adams?
Yes.
Board Member Doshi? Yes. Board Member Morocco?
Yes.
Board Member Nara?
Yes.
Board Member Koenig?
Yes.
Board Member Giblin?
Yes.
Vice Chair Fulton?
Yes.
Chair Gutierrez Scacchetti?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Madam Chair, at this time, I'd like to ask Bill Vaquera to once again present on item 2205-37.
Thank you. We are presenting for approval item 2205-37, personal injury claim of Zufang Zhang. Authorization is requested to settle the claim of Zufang Zhang through her attorney at an amount discussed in executive session. The Attorney General has approved the proposed settlement subject to the availability of funds. We ask for approval of item 2205-37.
May I have a motion to approve?
Motion, Nara.
May I have a second?
Second, Adams.
Is there any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, Megan, please take a roll call vote.
Roll call vote, Board Member Adams?
Yes.
Board Member Doshi? Yes. Board Member Morocco?
Yes.
Board Member Nara?
Yes.
Board Member Koenig?
Yes.
Board Member Giblin?
Yes.
Vice Chair Fulton?
Yes.
Chair Gutierrez Scacchetti?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Madam Chair, at this time, once again, I'd ask Bill Vaquera to present on item 2205-38.
Thank you. We are presenting for approval item 2205-38, master agreement with Harts Mountain Industries, Inc. and its affiliates that results in 1. New Jersey Transit acquiring the remaining units in 1-2 Penn Plaza East. 2. The settlement of arbitration claim relating to 1-2 Penn Plaza East, Newark. 3. New Jersey Transit releasing a purchase option for property in Newark. And 4. The settlement of environmental claim relating to property in North Bergen. Authorization is requested to approve and consent to entering into and effectuating the terms of the master agreement, including the undertaking of acquiring the Harts units, accepting an assignment of the parking sublease, dissolving the condominium form of ownership to the extent possible, releasing the Doremus Avenue purchase option, accepting the Harts Mountain Industries cash payment to New Jersey Transit in an amount discussed in executive session, and further authorize the chair or president and CEO to determine all matters in connection therewith. Authorization is also requested to take any and all actions necessary to enter into and effectuate terms of the master agreement with Harts in accordance with the terms and conditions set forth in the master agreement and as discussed in executive session. Authorization is also requested that the master agreement with settlement of miscellaneous disputes, arbitration settlement, and mutual release agreement, purchase and sale agreement, condemnation settlement, and mutual release agreement, lease modification agreement, and amendment to the memorandum of lease shall be approved by the chair or president and CEO, are hereby authorized and approved, and the chair or president and CEO are each hereby authorized and directed to execute any and all other agreements, memorandums to be recorded, documents, consents, acknowledgments, and certificates necessary to implement the transactions contemplated by the master agreement. Authorization is also requested that the chair or president and CEO of New Jersey Transit be authorized and directed to take all such further actions and to execute and deliver all such further instruments and documents as the chair or president and CEO shall determine to be reasonable, necessary, or desirable in the name and on behalf of New Jersey Transit to fully carry out the intent and to accomplish the purposes of the foregoing resolution and the execution by the chair or president and CEO of any such instrument or document, or the doing by such officer of any act in connection with the foregoing matters shall conclusively establish such officer's authority, therefore, from New Jersey Transit, and the approval and ratification by New Jersey Transit of the instruments and documents so executed and the actions so taken. Authorization is also requested that all actions heretofore taken and documents prepared or executed by or on behalf of New Jersey Transit, by its officials, and by New Jersey Transit professional advisors in connection with the master agreement, or any other action in connection with or related to the acquisition of the Harts units, the release of Harts from the Penn Plaza litigation, and any environmental claims related to the condition of the North Bergen property, or the release of the Doremus Avenue purchase option are hereby ratified, confirmed, approved, and adopted. We ask your approval of item 2205-38.
May I have a motion to approve?
So moved, Adams.
May I have a second?
Second, Giblin.
Is there any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, Megan, please take a roll call vote.
Roll call vote, Board Member Adams,
Yes.
Board Member Doshi,
Yes.
Board Member Morocco,
Yes.
Board Member Nara,
Yes.
Board Member Keenan,
Yes.
Board Member Gibbon,
Yes.
Vice Chair Fulton,
Yes.
Chair Gutierrez Scacchetti.
Yes.
Motion carried. Vice Chair Fulton is recused from the next item, 2205-39, and he will leave the meeting. We will also have Board Members Brown and Thomas return to the meeting.
Chair, for the record, Vice Chair Fulton has left the room. Board members Brown and Thomas are back at the dais.
Thank you very much, Brian. So it is my pleasure at this time to present item 2205-39. I am recommending approval of item 2205-39, annual notice of meetings and designation. This action item is to adopt the annual notice of meetings for all of the Board of Directors meetings during fiscal year 2023, which begins on July 1st of 2022, and to designate Cedric T. Fulton as Vice Chairperson for New Jersey Transit Board of Directors and its subsidiaries. Cedric is the consummate professional, certainly has been a tremendous contributor to the board in his time here, and I believe his continued service as Vice Chair is both required and earned. And with that, I will ask for a motion to approve the item.
Motion, Baroka.
And may I have a second?
Second, Nara.
Second. Any discussion? Hearing none, Megan, please take roll.
Roll call vote, Board Member Adams,
Yes.
Board Member Doshi,
Yes.
Board Member Morocco,
Yes.
Board Member Nara,
Yes.
Board Member Keenan,
Yes.
Board Member Giblin,
Yes.
Chair Gutierrez Scacchetti.
Yes.
Motion carried. We will have Vice Chair Fulton return to the meeting.
Chair, for the record, Vice Chair Fulton has returned to the dais.
Well, Cedric, you may not forgive me for this in the future, but I'm very pleased to tell you that you will continue to serve as vice chair, so long as it's your desire to do so.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It's my pleasure.
Thank you so much. Before we adjourn to executive session, I want to let the public know we will return only to adjourn the meeting. No further business will be conducted. May I have a motion to enter into executive session to discuss personnel matters, contract negotiations, the status of pending and anticipated litigation, and matters falling within the attorney-client privilege, including but not limited to New Jersey Transit Portal North Bridge Project, Parcel 118, Metal Green Recycling Self-Move Agreement, and relocation and personal injury claim of Yezebel Campanella. May I have a motion to enter into executive session?
Motion.
So moved, Kane.
May I have a second?
Second, Nara.
Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, Megan, would you please take roll call vote?
Roll call vote, Board Member Adams?
Yes.
Board Member Doshi? Yes. Board Member Maroko?
Yes.
Board Member Nara?
Yes.
Board Member Kane?
Yes.
Board Member Gibbon?
Yes.
Vice Chair Fulton?
Yes.
Chair Gutierrez Deschetti?
Yes.
Motion carried.
But she came back out.
council. You gonna keep me from having to be opposed? Please. Right, Rich? We don't need that. It's never fun, because you're always on the other side. I remember when I first became manager of Port Authority of Western Canada, and there was a trip and fall that happened 4 years before I was even there, and I was in Southern District Court. I was getting crushed because there was like, I knew nothing about it. Every question was characterized to make it clear that I had absolutely no knowledge of any of the facts. No matter how much they prepared, I wasn't there 4 years ago. And it was sort of like a jurisdictional responsibility. New York City, Port Authority, MTA, all that part. Trip and fall in the grave. And I'm sitting there going,
Megan, are we ready?
back in the day when I used to be this.
Because that's deep.
Waiting for, I think, one more board member.
Board member Nara is not here yet. I felt like calling everyone I had ever been to apologize and saying, I'm so sorry for doing that to you.
Here she is.
On
our way.
Mr. Vice Chair, I think it's a bit hazard.
Okay, we're ready to go? I hereby reconvene the open session of the board meetings. Megan, would you please take roll call?
Board member Adams?
Here.
Board member Brown?
Here.
Board member Doshi?
Here.
Board member Morocco?
Here.
Board member Thomas? I'm sorry, board member Nara?
Here.
Board member Thomas?
Here.
Board member Keenan?
Here.
Board member Giblin?
Here.
Vice Chair Fulton?
Here.
Chair Gutierrez Gachedi?
Here. Since there is no further business, may I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Motion.
Second, Nara.
Is there any discussion on this motion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion is carried, meeting is adjourned, everyone have a safe trip home.
Okay. Have a good night, everybody.
Good night.
I lied.
I'm glad you lied, just so I can lie now. So you'll be home by 11? Good night.
I know.
How's your mother doing?
Sophomore at Paris.
Yes. Downstairs. Okay.
With you all? Thank you, Mike. Have a good one. Safe travels.
Catholic school, and now it's no longer, it's like just a private school. And it was funny because my brother told me one of his friends just got named president of that.